We're at the Manly Yacht Club. It's Sunday morning and we've run into Russell Coutts, who's in Sydney for the big New South Wales Cup. Now, Russell, what brings you here apart from, I suppose you've got a team here, have you?
Oh, we've got 6 kids from New Zealand competing in this event, so it's great. It's a really fantastic event, and I've forgotten how nice this whole area is. It's just beautiful. So it's a great experience for them to come over here and sail against the Australian kids, and have a lot of fun. They're definitely enjoying the racing here.
Have you got your BDI on them for the America's Cup? Or?
No. It's all about getting kids just to love the sport and learn as much as they possibly can. So, and by learning, they learn how to handle the boat better and control it better. I think racing is a good format for that, because it gives them a bit of a discipline to what they're doing. But hopefully these kids will go on and enjoy sailing for life.
Well, it certainly is a fun event, isn't it, really? As the briefing man said, you can do anything except pirate the other boats.
Yeah, well, they always, at these regattas, they always incorporate a fun event as part of it. It's not just about racing. I think the social element of getting these kids to interact with each other is vital, actually. And if they make friendships and really develop a love for the sport, then they'll be with it for life.
Well, that's what we want, isn't it, really? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And they do it well. They race the racing in close to shore. They race short races. The kids aren't out on the water all day. It's about quality rather than quantity. So I think they've got a lot of aspects right to the junior sailing.
Well, do you spend much time in New Zealand these days, or are you mostly in the US?
I try to spend as much time as possible in New Zealand, but obviously I have some demands, mainly in Bermuda actually. So we've got our event office in Bermuda, a full team of people there. So that's where I spend a lot of my time.
Well, I suppose you're on the way to Japan tonight, are you?
Yes, leave for tonight. We've got the first America's Cup event in Asia, actually, happening next weekend. It's a little bit late in the season, but we were sort of dictated on schedule because of the previous event in Toulon, France. So, but we're hoping for some good wind, and hopefully we'll get that and give sailing a little bit of a push in Asia.
Well, this is the last of this year's events for the Louis Vuitton Cup. Do you think it's been successful for you? Are you happy with what's happened?
I think the Louis Vuitton America's Cup World Series has been incredibly successful. The teams are evenly matched. No team is uncompetitive. We've seen many races, America's Cup races in the past, where 2 or 3 teams really dominate the racing, and this is very, very evenly matched. Pretty much any of the teams can win races, and currently Ben Ainsley's and his team is obviously winning. Land Rover, Ben Ainsley Racing, they're doing a great job, but the other teams are very, very close also. Now I think Artemis has had for the second half of the Louis Vuitton America's Cup World Series, they won 3 events, so it's been an incredible performance from them.
What about Dean Barker with his Spalding to Windward business just recently? That's opened a whole new ballgame, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think. Well, Dean Barker's and his team, SoftBank Team Japan, I think they've definitely got a chance of winning the overall America's Cup. They have taken some time to build their team for the America's Cup World Series. Naturally, setting up a new team takes time, but I think he's got all the elements of being able to win this, and they're sailing very, very well right now. He'll be certainly trying to finish this event in Japan off with a win, or at least a very good performance.
Well, it's a big event for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a big event for Japanese sailing. Actually, I think Japanese sailing has dropped off a bit over the last 10 years, and now that there's major sailing event for them to focus on. Obviously, it's great that the Olympic Games is there also. I think it's an opportunity to really give Asian sailing a little bit of a push.
The New Zealand, the youth situation in New Zealand seems to be fairly strong there, Russell. There's a couple of new people coming on board. It's with the boys running in Team New Zealand at the moment.
Yes, sailing in general, I think, had a bit of a resurgence. I mean, obviously, the Olympic team performance was very good this time, the best it's been for many, many years. So that's great, and there's a good crop of young sailors underneath that are vying to do that next time. And I think some of the junior programs now are really coming together. I know that the Open Big program in New Zealand is really growing rapidly. We've got great fleets in some of the South Island clubs now, and our own Manly in Auckland has a nice fleet going now. So that's growing well, and so that the future looks quite bright for youth sailing. I must say that in Australia here, I'm super impressed with what they've got going on over here. It looks fantastic.
So getting back to the America's Cup, Russell, there's so many new things that have happened in sailing that the traditionalists would never have thought about. Now, is there anything you can actually put your finger on as to any great advances that you've made just recently?
I think the advances are obvious in terms of the technology, but what I would say is, I think there's a misconception about how this has changed sailing. I think in many ways the skills that are required to win in the modern America's Cup are the same or similar to the skills, let's say the fundamental skills required in the past. And you still see the top sailors that are winning in this modern format. They could equally win in the old format. There's no magic to that. And I remember when we first moved to multi-hulls, some of the people were saying that the multi-hull sailors would dominate and so forth. Well, that's proven to be simply not true. It's the good sailors figure the boats out, no matter what they are, and end up coming through and having the top performances. And look at the Ben Ainsleys of this world, Giles Scott, Jimmy Spittle, Tom Slingsby, Nathan Outridge, Ian Percy, Peter Burling, Blair Turk, and I guess you've got Glenn Ashby, who would be a recognised multi-hull sailor in there as well. But many of them are from monohull backgrounds, and they've adapted to this new format because the fundamentals are the same. It's still yacht racing. You've still got to choose the correct tacks to be on and the favoured side of the course, and the positioning's different, obviously, because the boats are a lot faster. But I think the same fundamentals are proving to be valuable.
What about the technology on the boats? Is that expanded as far as it can go, or is there more that you can do?
I think there's a lot. In the future, there's a lot more probably. I mean, let's be honest, or let's reflect on what's happened in the last few years. In 2010, we were racing 115-foot multi-hulls, and they were slower than the 45-footers that are sailing around, and the 45-foot test boats that are sailing around today. By a lot. It wouldn't even be a close race between those giant boats that were built for 2010 to the modern day boats. So that's staggering when you think about it, and even the fact that the modern day boats would compete well with the AC-72s and the modern day America's Cup. The America's Cup class is just under 50 feet long, and yet they'd compete with the 72-footers and they'd beat the 115-footers. It's incredible. Yeah. So there has been a tremendous amount learned. There's a tremendous amount learned not only in the technology but the way the boats are being sailed and the way that the techniques that the guys are using. We're now seeing foiling tacks. The boats will be likely in many of the races foiling all the way around the racecourse next time. And that, of course, is changing the positioning, the boat-on-boat positioning on the course. But I think that as we saw in the last America's Cup, they're still highly tactical. There's still a big role to play if you get those key tactical situations right. There's going to be enormous gains and losses, because the relative speeds of the boats, if you get it wrong, is enormous. If you get to a place on the course where you've got 1 knot more wind speed in certain points of sail, you're going to be doing 2.5 knots faster than the opposition. So that's significant.
So that's good to hear, because it's not the computers running the boat; it's still the sailor.
Oh, there's a lot of folly, frankly, about the America's Cup. People seem to think that computers are driving it, and really, the skill of the sailors is still paramount in determining the overall.
Well, that was evident in the 34th, wasn't it?
Pardon?
That was evident in the 34th.
Yeah, it was. And in fact, obviously the technology is important, but how you use the technology, I think, is equally important. And in other words, how the sailors used it. And for example, there was a lot of speculation about Oracle Team USA's rapid improvement throughout the last America's Cup. And if you talk to your Tom Slingsby or Jimmy Spittle, they would rate it as 80% technique and 20% of the change in the technology settings. So in other words, the wing sail settings. Yeah. They didn't change. They didn't physically change any technology, apart from small fairings on the bottom of the rudders. The rest of it was all adjustments to the way they were using the technology. And so, and we saw a massive difference in performance. And to be honest, you see that in any one design class. They can be exactly the same boats, but sailing techniques, and how you use the technology, how you sheet the sails, that precise sheeting, how you steer the boat, how you manoeuvre the boat. All of these things are vitally important, and it's just as relevant and just as important, at least as important, in the modern America's Cup.
Well, as an old Finn sailor, what do you think of the Finns at the moment? That's still a great division, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's a great. It's still a great class. There's been a lot of great sailors developed. We just got to take a break.
Well, we've had to relocate. We've been thrown out of the coffee lounge, Russell. But then again, we've been thrown out of better places, haven't we?
Fair enough, too. There were coffees to be made.
Indeed. Now, we're just talking about the Finns. Now, the Finn class in the Olympics is still evolving. As an ex-medalist, what do you think of what's going on there?
I think, as I said, I think there's many great sailors that have come out of the Finn class. It's still one of those strong boats. And really, it's like anything. It's a matter of whether the youth of today want to sail those boats in the future. They may be excited about the Finn, or they may be more excited about sailing a boiling moth. And ultimately, I think we as sort of interested parties in sailing, we need to think about that and cater for the future.
So what do you think of sailing in general in the Olympics?
I think the Olympics really needs to improve its television coverage. I don't accept that sailing couldn't be televised. I think with really good commentary and really good selection of the pitches. In fact, I was talking to Tom Burton about this last night, and he was saying exactly the same thing. I just look at the Olympic coverage last time, and often they had the wrong pictures on screen. It was hard for a sailing expert to follow the racing. And they really need to tidy that up if they want sailing to be more popular. I think with a wider audience. It is able to be televised these days. It's just a matter of, particularly with the new drone technology and so forth, I actually think it would make great television. But you do need You do need expert commentary. They really need to know what's going on and tell the viewer precisely what's going on. And we do need the proper picture selection. Often television is produced in a way where your so-called producer is a television expert, but they know nothing about sailing. And I think that is a problem.
Well, then what about the debacle about the Paralympics as far as sailing is concerned? It's out now, so...
Yeah, well, I think sailing's got to be careful because of that. You know, it's a modern world, and you do need to create the opportunity for people to view the sport. You know, particularly if you're looking for people to fund it. You know, I think that's a good opportunity for sailing because we haven't been doing that in the past. It's already a strong junior sport. You look at the junior sailing programs like we're seeing, you know, this weekend at Manly. Imagine if we did those, you know, those more fundamental aspects properly, because they've never been done well in the past. Imagine if we televised, you know, our Olympic Games, Olympic sailing events properly, and produced really good television products. Then we'd see some increased interest in junior sailing, I think.
Well, you're on the track with that sort of thing as with the America's Cup. That's more friendly viewing-wise, isn't it?
Well, it is, but I think there's a lot more we can do with the television in America's Cup. I think we're only just scratching the surface. I don't by any measure think that we are close to getting it right yet. We've made a lot of great improvements with the television graphics and so forth, but I think our storytelling, I think our athlete profiles have a long way to go. You know, we have some great personalities out there, but we're just not showcasing them well enough, you know, and we're not telling those stories and giving the viewer enough information about what is the rivalry between a Ben Ainslie and a Jimmy Spittle, or a Peter Burling and a Nathan Outridge. And we've really got to make, you know, sports is emotional, sports is compelling viewing. We've got the compelling pictures, but that's not enough. But there needs to be the emotional personality style of production, and that's where I think we can improve dramatically.
Now, what about next year? Bermuda's on in July. You're getting yourself organised for it. Is there going to be another event before the America's Cup next year?
No, just the final event will be in Fukuoka, Japan, this next weekend. So it's gearing up for Bermuda. Preparations are going incredibly well. You know, there's a custom America's Cup village being created there, or the reclamation has been completed now, and the construction of the hospitality facilities, grandstands, all of the public facilities, the Red Bull Youth America's Cup facilities, and all of the merchandising and you know, other aspects that you need for big events. They start construction soon. And of course, all of the super yacht facilities have either been created or being created over the next months. We're getting we've had incredible interest from that community. In our America's Cup Event Authority program, we have 51 berths now, and they are completely sold out of large mega yachts. And there's another 30 large mega yachts planning on coming that are outside of that program. So that's incredible. I think that's unprecedented in America's Cup. And so there'll be incredible interest. There's 46 cruise ships coming in during the month of the America's Cup. So, you know,
where are you going to put all these?
That's the challenge. You know, certainly there's only a limited number of hotel space on the island. We always knew that. But a lot of people are going to be staying in private boats and so forth, and so I think it will be, regardless of the limitations of hotel space, I think it's going to be a spectacular event. And the racing area is amazing. You know, it's a beautiful inner harbour that creates smooth water both for the spectators that are on the water watching, but also for these foiling multi-hull catamarans, it provides pretty much ideal conditions. And I think the other aspect of it, we'll see a variety of wind conditions there, which is a good thing. I think the closeness of the teams, the unpredictability of who's going to win, I think they're all compelling factors in making this a very, very interesting America's Cup.
Well, the 50s, the first ones come online, don't they, just after Christmas?
Just after Christmas, all the teams are allowed to launch their boats, and that'll be an interesting period. There's some choices to make, and as I said, there's some techniques to develop, and it's going to be really interesting to see. I certainly can't pick a winner at this point.
Do you think there's going to be a lot of different types of boats, or are they going to be sort of fairly close to each other?
I think they'll be very similar. I think it's going to be in the differences will be in the way they use the technology and the foils. I think you're going to see some differences in the foil design. That may be, you may see differences depending on what the wind conditions are. That may favour certain types of foils in certain conditions. But it's going to be interesting to see these sailors managing the match racing on a tight course. Yeah. The starts will be important, I think, and rounding that first mark is going to be an important part of the race. And
any predictions at this stage?
I think.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Honestly, I think it's very unpredictable.
Yeah.
I think there's been dramatic improvement in the teams. I think all of the teams have great sailors involved. They've all got sailors that are capable of winning. The next 6 months is obviously going to be critical. You can have enormous improvement or not in the next 6 months, and it will be the teams that keep learning and improving right up until the end that'll probably come out on top.
And what about the Red Bull Youth America's Cup?
Well, there's 16 teams, and that's going to be a very, very strong event, as it was last time. They've obviously moved into foiling the boats that the teams are currently using. The Red Bull Youth will be racing in those boats. There's some teams that are doing a lot of work and preparation. And I think it's a great opportunity for these guys to get out and sail in the America's Cup venue, just to soak up that atmosphere and get sort of a preview as to what it would be like to be in one of these teams. I think it's a great opportunity. And we saw with Pete Burling and Blair Tuke last time, how they've stepped into the role of leading Team New Zealand on the water, and they're doing a great job.
Well, we can't finish without talking at least about the classics that you're going to have on the America's Cup during part of the regatta.
Oh yes, well the J class is going to be fantastic. I think there'll be a lot of people that just come to watch the J class event, and so we've called it the America's Cup J class event now because of course they were an America's Cup class. 9 boats. I think it'll be spectacular, and they're racing on the Friday before the America's Cup finals, and then on the Monday, Tuesday afterwards. So I may well try and get a ride on one of those. I was going to
say, who are you with?
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Oh, Russell, good to see you in Sydney. Have a great time in Japan. All the best for the last event for the series.
Yeah.
It's been fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
And it's all the good and the bad and the controversial that's come out of it. It's looking great.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's probably, in a competitive sense, it's probably as strong or stronger than the America's Cup's ever been. Ideally there'd be 3 or 4 more teams involved. There's 6 good teams now, but it'd be nice to have 10 good teams. But the good thing about the 6 teams that are there is they're all good, solid, well-organised, professional operations that are serving their fans well. We've seen in the past some teams come to the America's Cup and frankly finish at the back of the fleet all the time. And really, I don't think that does anyone any good. You know, we really want to have competitive teams that really are in this event to win, and you know, people can get behind and support their local teams, knowing that they have a winning chance.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? This is the Bick Open, and of course Baron Bick was a great supporter of the America's Cup. He turned up and did some amazing things.
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah, well, the America's Cup's got a great history.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a history to be cherished. You know, and that's why we're bringing the J class back and making it part of the event.
Oh, great move. Just before I go, one quick question. You're very close, of course, to all the teams. Should Oracle not win, do you see any of the teams who could win change it all again? Do you think it might go somewhere else in some other format?
It's possible, but I think you know, by far the majority of the teams like this current format because it's affordable, and two, it's marketable. You know, and the old format was in many ways beautiful, but it was incredibly expensive and you know, frankly not as appealing to a lot of the commercial stakeholders that are part of this. And it's all very well to say, well, you shouldn't let that drive it. And I say, great, well, who pays? You know, and the America's Cup used to run it you know, pretty, or certainly the teams have traditionally run at significant losses, relying on somebody to write a big check out, at least one big check. And yeah, that's quite simply not sustainable. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, these wealthy guys, they can afford it. Well, maybe they can afford it, but
It's not sustainable.
they don't necessarily like doing it year after year.
No.
And if we look at other professional sports, some of them cost us significantly more money than America's Cup, but their commercial return is significantly more as well. So under this modern format, we've brought those two aspects more into line. In other words, the returns are greater than the cost for the first time in certainly my experience, you know, involved in America's Cup. And that's a good thing going forward. That bodes well for the future because that means that the teams can get sponsorship and support and deliver those sponsors value. You know, because typically in the past, teams that get sponsors, then at the end of it, they'd analyse the results, and many of those sponsorships didn't return the value that they needed to, and so that sponsors would drop away. And we're now seeing, you know, a lot of companies like Louis Vuitton, like BMW, like Oracle, like Emirates, all of these companies are coming back, returning, and you know, I think that bodes well for the future.
I see your old boss was inducted into the Hall of Fame a couple of weeks ago. You must be very pleased about that.
Yeah, I think it's good. You know, the America's Cup's got a fantastic history, and there's obviously difference of opinion and so forth, and there's controversies and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's a great event, and you know, it's great to see people that have put a significant part of their life to it recognised for that.
Well, and of course it falls into all different areas. You know, look at what's happening in the Vendée at the moment with their foiling.
Yes.
That's a direct thing from the America's Cup.
Yeah, it is. All right, I've got to go and participate in this fun event now where I've got to do the high five at the end of the event with the kids. So.
Mate, just get your hand going because you'll be hitting a lot of kids.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All the best.